Millport, the capital of Great Cumbria and a beautiful southern seaside town on a little archipelago in the Firth of Clyde. An island that's one small ferry ride away and can be cycled around in less than an hour and a half if you put some welly into it. But nestled behind the trees of Millport is a gorgeous chapel that almost changed the landscape of the island in such a unique way. The Cathedral of the Isles. Millport is a popular tourist destination here in Scotland for many reasons, including the iconic Crocodile Rock that I'm sitting on right now, who is the unofficial mascot of the town. But did you know that Crocodile Rock was almost the unofficial mascot of a city? And it's all because of the secret attraction that we're visiting today. The cathedral's land was owned by the 6th Earl of Glasgow, George Frederick Boyle, and has been passed down through his family to the present day. Not only did he own the land the cathedral was built upon, but he also owned the island. The cathedral grounds consist of 8 acres of land and 3.5 acres of woodland, which includes a labyrinth, croquet lawn and an orchard. Boyle, an active member of the Scottish Episcopal Church, returned to Millport in the 1840s after spending time studying at Oxford and assisting famine victims in Cork, Ireland. After founding a choir school at the Church of St Andrews here in Millport in 1848, he had a grander image in mind and decided to act on it. The cathedral and the collegiate buildings attached to it were designed in the Gothic Revival style, with a spire standing 123 feet, and is one of only 2 cathedrals in the Diocese of Argyll and the Isles, with the other being St John's Cathedral in Oban. On the 8th of June 1851, the Reverend George Crosby White, the then Provost, officially opened the church as the chapel of the College of the Holy Spirit and was an addition to the Scottish Episcopal Church. And on the 3rd of May 1876, George Richard Mackernas, the incumbent Bishop of Argyll and the Isles, signed the deed of cathedralisation and turned this chapel into a cathedral, and it was rechristened the Cathedral of the Isles and Collegiate Church of the Holy Spirit. Try saying that 5 times fast. The cathedral seats less than 100 people, making it the smallest cathedral in the UK. The cathedral consists of the north and south colleges, the nave, the cloisters, the library, the sister chapel for the Lady of the Isles, and includes a resplendent Celtic cemetery to the west of the cathedral just outside the nave. The North College was reserved for members of the choir, and the South College was reserved for the canons and religious figures. I got the chance to sit down with Canon Alec Boyd, a member and historian of the cathedral, to tell us a little bit more about this beautiful building.
So here we are, Josh, in the church and in the cathedral, standing in the choir, and you can look at the architecture for yourself and appreciate it. Lord Glasgow was a student at Oxford University, and he had friends there who were reading theology, and they weren't able to experiment with liturgy and music and coloured vestments or anything, because at that time it was very puritanical in the Church of England, and they would have been thrown into prison, as in fact many of them were. So he came home and he decided to build a mini Oxford college with a chapel and residency for his friends to come up here, so that they could find a safe place to do this experimentation and work through the things that they would have otherwise got into trouble for. The church was designed to be collegiate, hence the choir is set out as it is. It wasn't a cathedral to begin with, it only became a cathedral later on, and so at the time it was used by these young men to work out how they could best energise, revitalise and reawaken the Anglican worship of the time. Anglican worship as we have it in the church worldwide today relies very heavily on a lot of work that was done here in conjunction and association with the Oxford movement and the Tractarian movement in England at the time, who were very much behind driving the changes in the Anglican church into the sort of church we know it as it is today.
In 2011, the church's status as a cathedral almost turned Millport into a city, taking the claim away from St David's in Pembrokeshire as the smallest city in the UK. St David's has a population of around 2,000 people, whereas Millport sits at 1,600. Unfortunately, Millport missed the deadline and wasn't one of the 26 towns considered for city status under the Diamond Jubilee celebrations. The honours that year went to Perth, Chelmsford in Essex and St Asaph's in Denbighshire, and Millport hasn't applied ever since. A 3-star guest house was opened and also functioned as a religious retreat just to the east of the cathedral, with 16 rooms that can house up to 35 people. Unfortunately, in 2022, the regrettable decision was made to close the guest house until further notice due to the lack of attraction and money entering the B&B. Canon Alec graciously took us on a tour of the cathedral, and as you can see, it's an absolute masterpiece of a building. It's surprising to see just how few people visit the cathedral. They're really missing out. What do you think is the most special thing about the cathedral?
Oh, I think the most important thing to remember about the cathedral is if you ask anybody on the Isle of Cumbria about it, it's their cathedral. It belongs to the community in a very big way. Very well known by many people across the south of Scotland, far beyond. And the college business that was here had a reputation which was international. So it's a very special, important place.
Lord Boyle, the family still have a connection to the cathedral, I believe?
Yes, indeed. Lord Glasgow is still the chairman of the, and a member of the Cumbria trustee body, and has an interest in what happens here, obviously. In more recent years, the Diocese of Argyll and the Isles, the Episcopal Church Diocese, has had a more involvement with the place in running it more directly as a retreat house and a bed and breakfast, and as a place for conferencing and so on, which was very successful until COVID came along, which did a lot of damage to the businesses in the hospitality area.
Music plays a huge part in the cathedral here, and it comes as no surprise considering the great reverb that they have here in the nave. And of course they have some fantastic instruments, including their 1867 whole organ that originally served St John's Church in Edinburgh, and their recently restored Bosendorfer grand piano. Alistair Chisholm, the lay chaplain for the cathedral and the current musical director, plays a massive part in the cathedral's musical presence, and every year we see the return of Music for a Summer Afternoon, a popular local music series held here in the cathedral from May to October, and we got a very special glimpse as to why it's so important to the cathedral. The cathedral received a Category A listing for its importance to the island's history, and hopefully Millport does reapply to become a city again with the assistance of this beautiful building. We must give a very special thank you to Canon Alec for showing us around the cathedral and imparting his knowledge upon us. It's truly appreciated. Please come and visit the cathedral when you can, and please try and make the B&B more financially viable as a business. It really is the cherry on the cake, and the music is the delicious frosting. For wedding bookings and more, head over to island-retreats.org/Cumbria/weddings or contact office@cathedraltheisles.org for more information on the services they can provide for the big event. And since this is an Episcopal church, they also bless same-sex weddings. Remember to like, share and subscribe for more content from the Ayrshire Film Company and TV Ayrshire, including more episodes of Hidden Ayrshire, sports coverage and news from up and down the Ayrshire coast. Let us know if your ears have ever been blessed by the music of the cathedral, and tell us what harmonies lifted you up. Thanks for watching.